In these difficult times, you may feel that you have presently lost your way. If ever you are to get back in touch with your true authenticity, then what you'll need to do is to start out on a journey that will lead to the rediscovering of your individual integrity and your real purpose and vocation in life. Now, of course, you came into this world equipped by nature with the innate ability to express yourself fully as a mature human being. Your true self, the instinctive human wisdom that lives deep within you, is pure awareness, the ultimate self with a capital S. Now, the way to regain your authenticity is by realizing that what you imagine as being you, that which makes you regard yourself as special, is not something that you have the power to willfully manipulate, but is simply the random result of the interaction between the environment in which you presently find yourself and your physical and your psychic inheritance. If you are to finally achieve peace and authenticity, what you need to do is to go with the flow and to immerse yourself in the ever-changing and fluid world flux in which we all swim. Now, to find out how you have arrived at where you find yourself right now, you need to go back to your earliest childhood. As an infant, although you were labeled with a given name just a few days after you were born, it would have taken, what, about 18 months before you were able to identify yourself with that name. Now, before that, first gurgling in your cot and then experimenting with movement, you had no perception of yourself as a separate being. Then, gradually, you would have begun to associate yourself with the name that you were given. Now, around this time, if you were to have been sat down in front of a mirror, then you would have been able to point your reflection of yourself and identify it as me. Or to put it another way, you as a baby would have become self-conscious. What was previously a one-dimensional entity known by name to others, but not to itself, had now become divided into two. The fact of your existence as a separate human being and your perception of that fact. We can put it this way. I has now begun to realize that it has a separate dual presence as a physical and therefore mortal, not I, in the real world. So far so good. But as this duality, as the child that from this time onwards answers to its given name, you had at the very least another, 15 years to go before you achieved full mental and physical maturity. During this time, your childlike consciousness of yourself as a separate ego became painfully aware of its inability to cope unaided in the external world. The overriding need of you as an immature human organism was to be loved, to be unconditionally recognized, and to be accepted as a uniquely individual being. In which case, once maturity had been achieved, there would have been no conflict between your perception of yourself, on the one hand, that is ego, I, and on the other hand, the actuality of yourself, which is your real, authentic self. But life is not ideal. In this imperfect world, the experience of unconditional love is the exception rather than the rule. Now, any withdrawal of affection, that is, conditional love, implied that none of your other needs were going to be met. Now, you as a child would have instinctively sensed this threat to your survival, and it formed the foundation on which your adult insecurity, your feelings of panic, are presently built. If when you were a child you couldn't get yourself loved unconditionally, you will inevitably spend most of your adult energy building up a personality structure that is an ego strong enough to permanently suppress those aspects of yourself that you presently perceive as being unacceptable. Now, growing up in an imperfect world is a process that we've all had to go through. But if ever you are to free yourself from a lifelong shuttling between what you have been conditioned to see yourself as and what you really are, with the either-or dilemma from which all your present personal problems arise, you'll need to integrate the split between your acquired false ego on the one hand and your true authentic self on the other. Your present non-ideal state of being, by definition, exists in two dimensions only. That is to say, it is linear, it's on a line, and therefore it's bipolar. But in order to define its boundaries, to make it into a three-dimensional geometrical figure, it needs a third element. It needs a fulcrum from which the pendulum of personal existence can swing freely between the I and the not I, and which, by its very presence, define its boundaries. This third element, which transforms the problems inherent in the either-or of duality into the stable resolution of a trinity, is the transcendent quality which we call awareness. Now, the threeness of the triad is a sacred symbol of universal significance. Its threefold nature is a magical, mysterious phenomenon that can be interpreted in many different ways. The geometrical manifestation of the triad, of course, is the triangle, which is the most stable of all figures. But it can also be significant in many other ways, as past, present, and future, as the humanistic trinity of spirit, mind, and body, or as the religious holy trinity of father, mother, and child. Now, from the birth of human consciousness to the present day, and in many different cultures and civilizations all over the world, symbols of Trinity have been the key to understanding the unity and interdependence of all existence. Now, the one aspect of the Unitive approach to rediscovering yourself, which marks it out from all other approaches, is that it is centered on attaining awareness, on getting real, on getting back in touch with the reality which embraces all humanity and the whole universe, and which will at the same time transcend your present level of life consciousness. Now, we work to facilitate you toward the realization of this transcendent element in your life and enable you to charismatically communicate your experience to others. The Unitive approach to personal rediscovery will guide you on your journey back to your true self through a deeper understanding of negative personal attitudes and behavior patterns that are fixed in the past, through experiencing the joy of living in the present moment, and by reconnecting yourself with that which you really are, with your deep natural well springs of talent and creativity.